In this tutorial, we're going to enhance the crack that appears on the wall here to make it look a little thicker, as if these cinder blocks have been broken and we're also seeing that inside edge. I'm going to start by going to my layer with the crack in the wall. And if I'm satisfied with the initial crack, I'll go ahead and I'll apply the layer mask. I've put a drop shadow using the layer styles from the bottom of the layer window to get started. And that's what's given me the shadow now between the crack in the wall and the brick wall behind it. I'm going to get my lasso tool and I'm just going to go in and trace a shape inside the edge of that crack, because I want to copy and paste a piece of this to its own layer to create that illusion of the other side of the cinder blocks. Once I've got the selection, I'm going to Command J to copy it. Now the first thing I'll do is I'm going to take off the drop shadow on that because it's replicated because it was on the layer below. So if we were to look at our layer window, you can see now we've got two layers. One layer with the original wall, and then the layer above it is a little thin piece of it. Now that I have that, I'm going to start to work on it a little bit more, and I'm going to do that by locking the transparency, and then I'm going to get my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to sample a little bit darker value from the cinder blocks themselves, and I'll hit Option Delete. Now it doesn't appear too dark right now, but we're going to be working on it. So the first thing I'm going to do to give this a bit of a shadow so it seems to turn the corner and less light's hitting it than here on the flat area is to go over to my layer styles, and I'm going to apply an inner glow. Now that I have the initial shape created, I'm going to use my Dodge and Burn tool to go in and to make this look like it is cracked along that new edge. And I'm going to do that by going to O on the keyboard. When I click O on the keyboard, it shows me three tools. This lollipop shape tool, which gives us lighter values, and the burn tool, which gives us darker values, and the sponge tool, which we won't address, would enhance the saturation of a color. So we're going to be using the little hand and the little lollipop shape here. I'm going to start off with the burn tool, or that little closed hand. I'm going to hit L on the keyboard first because I want to make a selection of the shape that will contain the little jagged kind of a crevice I'm trying to make. So I'll just go and click and drag a random shape here, keeping in mind I'm trying to make it look like a broken cinder block. And then I'll hit O on the keyboard and I'm on that little hand tool. Now I'll make the brush a little bit larger, and I'm going to make sure that the hardness is completely off. Once I've done that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint over that edge. So if I were to hide the selection now, you can see I'm starting to create this little bit of a crack here. So I'll just do this every increment or so, and then the end results would be a series of these little crevices all the way down contour of that cracked edge. Very often I'll hide the selection by hitting Command H so I can see a little bit better what I'm working on here. Now I'm going to continue to do this a little bit more, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a lighter value using the Dodge tool. So I've gone in and I've added these dark cracks about halfway down. I'll assume you've done the whole thing. Next I'm going to add some lighter values using the same selection tool, but I'm going to use the Dodge tool, which appears underneath the Burn tool. and the dodge tool will give me lighter values. So once again, I'll start off with my lasso tool, and I'll make a random selection. Hit O on the keyboard. I'll make my brush a little larger. I can right click to confirm the size and the softness of it. And then I'll go in and start to put some lighter values in. Now again, I'll probably hit Command H on the keyboard just to hide this selection so I can see a little bit better what I'm doing. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing, and logically you'll be able to see where these lighter values would go depending on obviously the angle of the light. I'm assuming that the angle of the light would be coming from the ceiling somewhere, so these little pieces would appear to be jutting out perhaps further than the ones that are more vertical. I can always change the opacity of my brush or the weight of it at the top of the user interface if I wanted to maybe expedite this a little bit quicker. So I'm just going and adding these lighter values along the way. Now we'll do this all the way down as well, wherever it seems complementary to the darker values that we introduced. And if I'm looking for a stronger result up at the top of the user interface in the corner where it says range, if it would say shadows right now, it means it's only going to affect dark areas. I want it to go a little bit more dramatic, so I'm going to go to midtones. And that means whatever middle value content we see will be enhanced a little bit more dramatically. And you'll see how quickly you can add something a lot lighter. I'm going to stop here and continue with this tutorial when we come back, and we're going to add a little noise to this to make it a little bit more textured like the original cinder blocks. Now that I've gone and added the values to the edge of this cinder block wall that I want, I'm going to add noise to it now to bring it up to the same texture quality as the cinder block wall in the front. I'm going to go to Filter, and I'm going to go to Noise, Add Noise. And in here it's pretty subjective. I guess I'll probably set this quite low, uniform, monochromatic, and I guess I'll set it at 6. And I'll save it. Now I think I probably want to enhance the shadow behind a little bit more, so I'll go down to the layer with the cracked wall. That was our original wall. And then there I'll play with the opacity perhaps, and I may back off a little bit with the spread. It's inside and the light is artificial, so there is less likelihood that the shadow will be crisp and sharp. And we'll zoom back on this, and you can see that does a pretty respectable job.